Hey, what is up everybody? I am here to give you a video today. I'm actually going to be giving you my first ever review of this new show that recently came on USA called Mr. Robot. I was watching a TV show a while back on USA and I saw the advertisement for it. They were hyping it up like who was Mr. Robot. And it showed an advertisement for it and it actually looked pretty good. It actually interested me, so I want to see what this show is like. So I'm going to do that. So this episode came out on June 24th, 2015. And it's called Episode 1.0 HelloFriend.move. I think that's like a computer site. And I don't know anything about this show, not going to lie. I haven't even watched it yet. I haven't done anything. It looks like there's this guy that's supposed to be a robot. I'm not really sure yet. But I'm going to wait and see. But it looked interesting to me, and I'm going to check it out and see how it is. And I'm going to watch it. If I don't like it, I'm going to have to wait and see. But let's just wait and see. So hopefully this ends up being a good show. Okay, so the episode starts off. We see this guy, and he's in the subway. And he's thinking to himself, talking about how he thinks there's these people in black suits just constantly watching him, constantly watching his every move because he feels like he's a criminal. And this guy, we find out later on, his name is Elliot, and he has like the brain of a robot pretty much, which probably is why this show was called Mr. Robot. And he's like, I should have gone to Angie's party last night, but instead I had to do something else. It shows him just hanging out outside for a party. And then it shows he is in this coffee shop. And we see this Native American come in. And, or Indian, whatever you want to call him. And Elliot goes up to him. And we find out that his name is Ron, because he owns Ron's coffee shop. But originally he had some other name that's too tough for me to pronounce. But he changed it because he bought 7 of the same Ron's coffee, and there are a bunch more on the way. I don't have this exactly, I don't think. He said 14 or 17, I don't remember. And he tells Ron that he has the best Wi-Fi that he's seen. It's really fast Wi-Fi, but that made him suspicious. He talks about how they had these traffics full of Wi-Fi, and he said that the reason you're doing this is because you're pretty much hacking the system. So he hacked them, and he owns all of their emails. He has everything pretty much on file. And Juan says that you can't do this. I could arrest you. And then he tells him, well, then if you tell the police, actually, before he even says that, he's like, I could call the police. He's like, I can tell everybody about all the pornography that you have. And this makes Ron get a little bit nervous. So he asks, like, okay, how much money do you want to have you keep this quiet? And Elliot doesn't say anything. He says that you and I are a lot alike. You and I both don't really know how to talk to people. I never really learned how to talk to people. The only one I really knew how to talk to was my dad, but he ended up passing away. And Ron asks how he passed away, and he says leukemia. He says that it was probably because of the radiation in his job, but nobody believes him. Well, no, he didn't really have any evidence to prove it. So Ron still asks him for the money, and Elliot says he doesn't want money, and then he says, I actually left a little tip. And I think what he meant by that was he pretty much, because he said that I left a little tip about the time and place, so he pretty much knew that the police were going to get here soon. So that's really what that was. Elliot leaves, and the police come and probably arrest Ron. And he even says that he caused a coffee shop to run down. And then he goes to work. He says that he is, at nighttime, he is a vigilante hacker. And during the day, he works at some other company. I think he called it what did he call it? I forget what, but he works at a company throughout the day, and this guy Gideon calls him over, and he says that and I think he called it an industrial company or something. But we find out that the company's been hacked, and he says that this isn't. And Elliot says this looks pretty good, and he's like, this isn't good because this could put us under. And then we meet Angelo, one of Elliot's childhood friends, and she's arguing because she wants a raise with Gideon. And Angelo's like, where were you last night? You were supposed to come to the party. And Elliot's like, I just didn't make it. And Angie's like, you promised you were going to try this time because he's socially awkward. And then it cuts to like a flashback of him outside the party, and Angie's having a good time drinking some wine and stuff like that. And Angie said, "You're not paying. Stop thinking about stuff while I'm talking to you. I hate it when you do that." Which I loved that line right there. I thought it was awesome. And then Angie's boyfriend comes up and asks where he was, and Elliot's like, "I gotta get ready for this meeting." And Angie's boyfriend says, "This guy's being suspicious. He's putting this negativity. Does he not like me? I don't want to have this negativity in my life." And then that was really it there. Then it shows Elliot walking through, eating french fries on the sidewalk, which he was just thinking. Then he's in the therapist's office. He tells her about like her password online and everything. And she wants to know what he's thinking about. He's like, "You want to know what I'm thinking about?" And Elliot says the thing that makes her not a good therapist is that she can't really read people like I can. And then she says the therapist's name. I don't remember what it was. And she talks about how she's been divorced because he went through her emails. He hacked her pretty much. And she's been with a bunch of crazy guys since then, like a bunch of losers. And recently she met one, Michael Hansen. And he can't really find anything about him. Nothing on Facebook, nothing. And then the therapist asks Elliot, tells him that what makes you, the problem with you is you have all these angries. You're angry about stuff, but you don't really express it. You keep it inside. So she wants him to say, what are you angry about? What are you angry about? Society, what are you angry about? And Elliot says that society. Society likes us to believe that there was this famous guy that I've seen before that secretly used kids to do his, that made money by having kids do work. Talk about how celebrities are just nothing more than money thieves or something like that. And he just goes off on how the voting's rigged when you try to vote for the president. He talks about how people just try to enjoy pleasure in the Hunger Games, which it doesn't work. I actually really like this quote right here. It's totally worth checking out. Then, but he wasn't actually saying this to her. He was just thinking it. And she's like, "What makes you mad? What do you hate?" He's like, and he says, "Nothing." And then he says, "I want to thank you for trying because you should know what it's like to be lonely because, we both know what it's like." And she's like, "How do you know I'm lonely?" And then he's like, "Shit, the emails." He thinks it. And he's like, I think he just says, "You get that vibe. That's how I just feel from you." Then he talks about how he lies, says that he actually did go to the Angie's party last night. And he says that he met a girl, got her phone number, and she likes the Hunger Games, which, I like, which is good. And then she says, "You're hiding something again." And then Elliot says that and she even talks about how Elliot talked about in the beginning how these people are following him in suits. He says they're gone now. I took the meds and it worked, so nothing to worry about. And then it went to commercial. But I really like this show so far. It's actually pretty good. It's a little bit tough to understand because Elliot's kind of tough. We even find out that he hates his job too because Angie accuses him, and he says he hates it because it's a corporation trying to hide its problems, which probably is what most corporations do. So it is a little bit tough to understand sometimes. You have to watch it back a couple of times. But other than that, it's been a pretty good show so far. We're going to have to wait and see how it is. I like Elliot so far. I like this concept of him having a robot brain, and he's socially awkward, but he's really smart. Because that's kind of how smart people are. They're normally socially awkward. But we're going to have to wait to see how it progresses. It's only 14 minutes in, so we're going to have to wait and see. Okay, so next, Elliot's at work, and her name was Angela, Angela's boyfriend comes up and asks if they want to do lunch, and he says, "Nah, I'm busy today." And he's like, "You've been blowing me off the past 3 times. You and I need to kind of have a good relationship here, just for Angela's sake, because this feels awkward. Because they're like best friends." And Elliot says, "I don't mind awkwardness." He's like, "Well, I don't like it because I want to have a good relationship here." Then he starts talking, but Elliot thinks about it. We meet. He gives us a little bit of a background between with Angela's boyfriend. We find out his name is Ollie Polka, and he hacked this like computer so he can see what's going on, and his like password was 123456 7. The 7 was actually like written out too, so that was stupid. And he talks about how he was there when he first said "I love you" to Angela, and I think he even said that he fucked some chick before, like he was cheating on her or something, but I'm not exactly sure. And then he's like, and then it just cuts back to the normal conversation. He says, "I'm not gonna really go against Angela because she has a good taste in men." And he's like, "You wanna do lunch sometime? You sure? So we gotta make this work because I like you." He's talking about how they both like the same stuff, music, and Elliot says, "I'll try harder next time." And he says that he doesn't really think that Ollie's evil because he's too stupid to be evil. The real evil is corporate. And he talks about how it's all over the place. It's the type of cell phone, it's a type of iPad, laptop, all that stuff, and it's just trying to fill the universe to consider that it's something good, but really it isn't. Then he says corporate stands for Evil Corp. Then he meets some of the executives and he says, "I want to stop a company, but I'm actually helping it out at the same time." I like that line. And then we meet the executive president. I think his name was Tully something, and I don't remember his name. But he's like, this is like a big moron because he's like the executive president, but he's using a BlackBerry, which makes sense because you would think you could have a better cell phone because he works for a company like this. And he says that he's an arrogant moron, and that's what I hate, arrogant morons. Then we meet this other guy, I forget his name, and he talks about how he's the executive, and he's the executive computer maker or whatever it's called. And he says, "I'm the same thing, but just a techie, executive techie." That's what he said. And he says, "Don't worry, I had to start with where you are, and look where I am now." And he talks about how he's the executive, and he's like, "What you probably ask?" And he goes to think like, what's he doing being the executive? He's like, "Well, you're probably asking what I'm doing to be the executive. It's just old habits." He talks about everything's just old habits. He says, "I'm gonna get back with my other group. It was nice work. It's gonna be nice to work with you." And he says it really suspiciously. So maybe it was just the way it sounded, but I think he said it pretty suspiciously. I'm actually pretty suspicious of this guy. And then Elliot is walking home and he's thinking that he wants to stop these people that you have to work for, these bosses, these higher ups. Talking about how he has to stop the name tags and all that, but he says that he can't do that because he's just a minor. He says he's never had to cope with loneliness. He says he hates to hide his loneliness. He starts crying. And he actually has a vision of, I guess, his mom when she would like beat him or something. And he says to cope with it, he does morphine, which is a drug. And he says that he doesn't do it enough where it becomes addictive. He only does like 30 milligrams. That's it. And then he ran out, so he makes a business deal with a druggie to get some. And she tries to get him to have sex with him to get it, but he's like, "This is just going to be a normal drug deal." Then she says, "I've been trying to post something on your Facebook. Don't you have it?" And he's like, I don't have Facebook. I hate it." And then they do drugs together. That was, and I thought this was a good segment of the show. I enjoyed it. Okay, so next, Elliot was kind of high off the morphine, so he pretty much fucked the chick that he was with. And then he was on Instagram, and he found a picture of his therapist and Matt Hansen. So he wants to find out the truth behind him. And he sees them at the coffee shop. He sees him get into a taxi. Some homeless guy asks for money, which I thought was pretty funny. Then he calls the taxi service, and he says that he left his keys in the taxi as a lie, and he gives them the number. And he tells them like where the taxi's going, so that way he knows where Michael Hanton's going. Then he sees Michael Hanton. He's being a dick to his dog. Like, you have to do dick. He's like, come on, go already. Then he goes up to Michael and asks him, hey, makes up some bullshit how his phone's dead and needs to call his mom. And he does that. And I think he called himself so he can hack his phone. And then he deletes the phone call like it never happened. And then he starts smoking. And then he gets a call from Angela. Angela tells him that there's this bad hacking going on right now. We need you. He doesn't think Lloyd can handle it by himself. So he goes over there. And we find out Gideon comes up and he asks if he shut down the server. And he says, yeah, but it's still not working. And he says that this is like, what do you call it? A rootin' kid, I think he said. Which is pretty much, actually Lloyd says a funny thing. It's pretty much a kid with a big dick, which was really funny. But he says that this means that they can just cause a virus anytime. It's like invisible. You can't really stop it. So they have to keep the server shut down. And I guess Gideon and Elliot are going to go investigate this because he asked them to get the plane ready. And I thought this was a good segment of scenes here. I really enjoyed this. So let's see what happens next. Alright, so next, Elliot and Gideon go to this place where the server, is crashing. I think there was somebody else there. They're trying to stop this hacking. And Elliot sort of successfully does it, I guess for the time being. Then he starts talking to this guy, and the guy, on a message it says, leave me alone. And Elliot can either choose to cancel it by pressing pressing Control N, or deleting it by pressing Control W. But he's like, I want to delete it, but so he's like, I should delete this, but for some odd reason I don't want to. So he doesn't delete it. Then in the jet, Gideon comes out of the closet. He tells him that he's gay. And he says that he doesn't usually like to open up about his sex life, but my partner really wants me to start doing that, which he really doesn't seem like he was gay, so I'm actually was kind of shocked about that. And then Gideon says, let's be honest here. You would be, you wouldn't care if the company went under. Yeah, you wouldn't care if the company went under because you don't like to dress up in suits. And Elliot says, I'm going to find this guy. But, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see with that. Then, Elliot's in the subway. This guy comes up, and we actually saw this guy earlier. He said something to Elliot, like, what are you looking at? And he says, you better come with me. And he has the word Mr. Robot written on his shirt, on his, chest. So I think we know now why the show is called Mr. Robot. And he says if you deleted it, you would have nothing to talk about, but if you didn't, you didn't. And then Elliot's like, are you talking to me? So then the door's about to close, and then Elliot exit the train. So I can't wait to see what happens with this. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what happens. So let's see what happened. Okay, so it is now August 5th, 2015. I didn't mean to start really recording this video. I just had other shit I had to do, so I had to go do that shit. But I'm here now. Before I continue with this Mr. Robot review, I want to say something about my 200 subscriber video. If you're pissed that your link of your YouTube channel isn't in the description box, I'm sorry. I couldn't fit everybody in there, so what I have to do is do annotations for everybody. It's gonna take some time, but I'm probably gonna end up doing it. I don't know when, but I'll try to get around to it. So now that I've said that, let's continue with this Mr. Robot review. I kind of had to refresh my memory, but I'm all caught up now, at least with this episode. What happened was Elliot followed Mr. Robot. I'm just going to call him by that because I don't know his real name. But he followed him outside the train. He's asking him all these questions. And he tells him that he can't really answer these questions until they have to go to Coney Island. He says, I can't answer the questions until we get to I'm just gonna call it headquarters. And he tells the story about how his dad used to steal things, and he never had, like, could hold down a job, so he would rob stores and stuff like that, and they could never prove it. So technically, he says it wasn't stealing, and then he got caught, and he was in prison for 5 years and committed suicide. And he said he remembered that. He said that wasn't good. He was in jail and you know, stuff like that. And he says that's what Elliot is right now. That's why he's been following Elliot everywhere. He even smoked in the train station, and Elliot says you can't smoke in here, and he really didn't care. Then they go to this like cargo place, and they are in like an arcade. They have popcorn there and stuff like that. That's where they do all the hacking, and Mr. Robot explains that that's what they do it. They can't, because before people would just get caught by going off their laptop. They can't do it. They can only do it there. They can't do it at home or anything like that. He even says that to make sure that you're worthy, he gives you like a task or a project to do to make sure you're worthy. And he says that they don't really talk to each other unless they're there. And then Elliot says, "So what's my project?" And he's like, "You're gonna get your project soon." And then that was about it. Then Elliot goes home, and he meets up with Angela, and Angela thanks him for getting the company out of trouble. And they're gonna have like a movie night, and they're gonna get high and watch the movie. Okay. And she actually even asked where like he was. She thought he was sleeping. And he makes up a lie saying that he just fell asleep on the train, but she knows she's lying, but she doesn't want to deal with that right now, so maybe that's foreshadowing. So then they go in the house and they see that that chick that sold him those drugs earlier in the episode was sleeping, so then she just leaves. She thinks they're an item, but they're not. So she leaves, and then Elliot kicks Shayla out. And Elliot looks up this stuff about this stuff. He just had to look up Mr. Robot and all that. And none of the websites know about it, but he could still catch him. And then Elliot meets with one of the people. I believe her name was Dola. And she tells him, like, "Are you going to give us the information so we can hack your store? Well, your company." And he doesn't understand what's going on. And then Mr. Robot, she calls him a dickhead. And Mr. Robot comes up and says, "That's Dola for you." And then he asks, "Do you like Ferris wheels?" And then it cuts to commercial. So I thought this was pretty good stuff in the episode so far. And I'm going to continue watching it and see where it goes. Okay, so next, Mr. Robot and Elliot are in the Ferris wheel. And Elliot tells him that he's going to turn him in. But Mr. Robot says that he's here because he wants to make the world a better place. Because he knows something is corrupt in the world and he wants to make it a better place. He says he hates the way that the world's become. And he said that that's what they're going to stop. They want to stop money. They want to take down like this big organization that wins all the money. And Elliot's like, "Well, you're just going to cause a bigger like financial ruin like we just had." And he says that's not going to happen. Because everybody wouldn't really owe money. That it would be like everyone didn't owe money because it'd be off the record and stuff like that. And it kind of cuts away because the DVR was recording just kind of stutters and stuff. So I can't really give you any more information what happened. So it plays this montage looking up everybody's credits and all that stuff. He puts it in a blue folder. And then in the meeting, Angela's trying to tell him what happened. And she even says that it happened at 2:05, like this hack happened at 2:05 on Friday night, and then the guy that runs the thing's like, "Don't you mean 2:05 in the morning?" And he's like, "On Saturday morning." He's like, "Well, yeah, if you want to be technical about it." He's like, "Yeah, that's what we're here for, to be technical about it." So she keeps trying to tell him, but then he whispers something to somebody's ear. He goes to talk to Gideon about it, and I think Angela got like demoted because of this, which was kind of sad for her. And Elliot asks, and then the guy says, "We don't need her on this project." So then he had a white folder out where that could have clearly turned him in, but then he switched it with a blue folder. And he says, "This is going to lead you to the hacker." So he pretty much changed his mind. Maybe that means he's going to work with these guys. I don't know, but I'm actually hyped to see what's going to happen. So let's see what happens. Okay, so next, Elliot hasn't heard anything from like Evil Corp, Mr. Robot, the IRC Association in like 19 days. So he figured he'd take a break, and he's gonna look up stuff about Michael Hansen, and he's trying to hack into like his, I guess, his internet, and he calls him, tells him some bullshit that like his cult that he's losing money, so he has to give him some information. Um, he tells him like he tells him his internet stuff like C2, his favorite sports team's Yankees, and his dog's name is Flippers, and he can't. The password was no match. The reason why, and he even like looks at Angela and Krista's photos and wishes he could be a normal human, but he has to protect the world from bad. And I can't remember. And the password's no match, and he doesn't understand why. But the reason is because his real name isn't Michael Hansen. So then he sees Michael Hansen after a date with Krista, and Michael Hansen comes up to Elliot, and Elliot says that he knows he's cheated on his wife with Krista, and he wants him to break up with Krista, and he says that he'll agree to do it. And he says that he also says that he also wants him to tell him the truth, because he actually has a wife too. I didn't say that. And he said that she'll be devastated, and then he makes him give him his dog. And then the next day, Krista's all upset, and Elliot tells her what's going on with Angela, saying that he's been trying to talk to her for days. So then she says just to talk to him in person because Angela's kind of, I guess, mad at Elliot for the reason that she got pulled from the meeting. So he talks to her about it, and she says, I was just embarrassed. Let me fight my own battles, and if I lose, then I lose. And he agrees. And then we find out that the head guy, Colby, I think his name was, got arrested because he was rumored to have been working with the hacks as well. So Elliot's so happy that he took down Evil Corp. He's so happy that he got him arrested. And then some guys in suits come up, and Elliot walks into the room, and we see that guy, because this guy saw him switch folders, and he says, "Hello, Elliot," and then and then the show ends. I thought that was a good ending. I thought the show overall was actually pretty good, and that's my thoughts on the show. I'll be back to do another review of it when I get a chance. I have to kind of go because the phone's winning now. So that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.